It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know.
Hey guys, how's it going? It is Tuesday, March 30th, and this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and of course, make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we get some coronavirus updates, current news from around the world, the best class ever segment with Sean Jusong McMillan, and of course, looking into the book of Acts. All right, guys. How are you guys doing today? I hope you guys enjoyed your Monday. Usually the hardest day of the week for a lot of people, just to try to get back into things after a nice weekend. But I'm really thankful that all of you and all of us together have gotten over the Monday humps. And now we're here on Tuesday, here on the Morning Star Drive. So keep liking and commenting. And I want to hear from you guys and see how you're doing. All right. So especially with Sky Channel, just constantly pumping out more and more. Looks like we're going to hit about 14,000 views on that one video from last week. So today will be officially 1 week from when it came out. And that's like, if it's 14,000, that's like 2,000 per day, which is kind of cool. About 500 subs. And then I'm going to go live tonight again. It will not be a vlog tonight. Tonight will be Lab 78. I'm going to go back to live. It's going to be a live recording, and yeah, it's going to be something that's going to continue on this role of all these people watching watching that one video from last week and see what we can do if we can continue this role. All right, so we are going to talk about, I believe we're going to talk about like what's it like living in Malaysia. And also on top of it, how to adapt to a new environment. And of course, answering some questions from viewers. Either way. So that is tonight, Lab 78. Hope you guys can join us. That's at 8 p.m. Malaysia time, which is 9 p.m. in Korea time. And those of you on the other side of the world, I'm not sure if you can match it according to Korea time, but that's 9 p.m. Korea time. All right. So also last Sunday, we met Paige Murray from America. A lot of people watching that. It's been number one on my channel for a bit. And great interview, learning about her journey into this history. Super fun and insightful, and something that I'm really thankful she took the time out to do it. So hope you guys really enjoy it. So watch it if you haven't yet, and then you'll be able to get to know who Paige is. And when you see her in Korea or Natural Temple, you can just say hi to her and say, "Oh, I saw your interview." All right. Also, there was no Bible study yesterday for Zoom because there's 1 week off before we get to section 3. So there will not be an update on that. But on Zoom, I put up another, guys, there's a crazy thing. Yeah, I'll tell you. Yeah, okay, well, I'll tell you this. I put up another video because there's a member's sister who just called me out of the blue, had this crazy dream. I'm talking crazy dream. So she had this dream that she was in some retreat center with a bunch of her friends. Then someone tells her about a story in the Bible. And she's like, she opens up her Bible and finds it highlighted in her Bible and tells her friends, look, it's right here. The end times are coming. And her friends wouldn't listen and just ran away. And guess what the verse was? She only remembered 3 digits from it, and it was 117. Can you believe that, guys? That is ridiculous. So I taught her on Thursday, and when she told me the dream, I was like, holy smokes. And I told her, do you know whose number that is when they were in prison? And she's like, what? Who? And then I told her, and she freaked out, like, oh my gosh. She was like in tears. But I taught her spiritual world. It was like kind of out of the blue. Just started teaching, went into spiritual world, and then fire and last days. So it was something that's really relevant to her dream. But she had massive goosebumps. But you got to see it. It's great. And I put that on Patreon. So if you want to see that, go ahead, check it out there. All right. So let's get into today. Today is an awesome Tuesday, so I hope you guys will enjoy today's music from our members from around the world. We are going to start in the East with Dia Wings from Korea, and there's our new single that came out on 3/16. It's called The Way to Go, taken from one of Sunseem's poems, and they made it into a song. Second song, from Japan, it is Kuma-chung with Open My Eyes, and last but not least, it is Ju-Star Aiden Verdi from New Zealand, and this song is Cameron Fry Takes a Stand. So with one heart, together here on the Morning Star Drive, let's make sure that we pray in the Lord's name for these member artists from around the world.
힘들었던 지난 날은 모두 잊어요. 그마저도 운치 있게 내디딘 걸음이었으니 아파 흘렸던 눈물보다 희망으로 기다렸던 빛나는 순간을 기억해
그려진 기억도 짙어진 추억도 모두 다 빛나는 걸 다 똑같아 보여도 저마다 사연이 달라 너의 얘기를 들려줘
너와 나 갈 길은 극에서 끝까지 가다가 아니 갈 테면 차라리 아니 떠나만 못하리라 노래하고 춤추고 아기자기 얘기 나누고 우리 갈 길은 비바람 스치고 눈보라친데도 This is the way to go It's my way Go straight up It's my way This is the way to go 이래저래 시끄럽던 모든 말들은 지금 이 순간부턴 더욱 의미 없어졌어 그대와 나 여기 이곳에 이렇게 함께 있고 그 하나면 충분하니까
살다 보면 빠져버려 그러다 너도 버려 쓸데없는 건 갖다 버려버려 수실로 머릿속 청소 잘해야지 평소에 한게 있디 한게 더요 This is the way to go
너와 나 갈 길은 극에서 끝까지 가다가 아니 갈 테면 차라리 아니 떠나만 못하리라 노래하고 춤추고 아기자기 얘기 나누고 우리 갈 길은 비바람 스치고 눈보라친데도 This is the way to go It's my way Go straight up It's my way This is the way to go 너와 나 갈 길은 처음부터 끝까지 가다가 아니 갈 테면 차라리 아니 떠나만 못하리라 노래하고 춤추고 아기자기 얘기 나누고 우리 갈 길은 비바람 스치고 눈보라친데도 This is the way to go It's my way Go fire It's my way This is the way to go
Open the eyes, open the door, open my heart, 見心探して Open the eyes, open the door, open my heart, 未来照らす my way 揺れないで go 揺れないで go どんなかな迫害が来ても動じない強い信仰を持って立ち向かおうファミリーで go ファミリーで go 全ての人を受け入れられる家族のような温かさを持ってゆこう主の御心ファーストでゆこういつも主の心情と共に主の言葉を最優先にして動き出そう伝えよう御言葉実践し挑戦してナンバーワンを目指してゆこう全ての個性才能生かし挑戦しよう主役になろう伝えたい I'm happy I'm happy 新しく You are shining You are shining 伝えたい I'm happy I'm happy happy 新しく You are shining, you are shining オープンでこうオープンでこう地域や社会の目線に立ち発展に積極的に貢献しよう近づいてこう近づいてこう全ての世代と距離を近く親しく接したならは僕をなそう縛られてる心を捨ててこう新しい取り組みをしよう主の言葉で心を燃やして動き出そうどんどんチャレンジしよう家族のような温かさで愛に満ちた境界しよう CGM オープンの先駆者として強みを生かし大胆になろう伝えたい I'm happy, I'm happy 新しく You are shining, you are shining 伝えたい I'm happy, I'm happy 新しく You are shining, you are shining 主の御言葉に出会いすべて与えられた何もない私だったけど育ててくれたその愛をいつまでも忘れずにいようこれやったものすべて捧げ御心がそう実践し挑戦してナンバーワンを目指してゆこう全ての個性才能を生かし挑戦しよう主役になろう Open the eyes, open the door Open my heart 見どころ探して Open the eyes, open the door Open my heart 未来照らす my way
I'm ready to take the heat. I'm ready to take a stand. I'm not gonna stand for this, being pushed around again. I hate to see you kiss your car, and then you go and hate your girl. So hit me with all you've got, 'cause I'm ready to face you now. I'm ready to take the heat. I'm ready to take a stand. I'm not gonna stand for this, being pushed around again. I hate to see you kiss your car, and then you go and hate your girl. So hit me with all you've got, 'cause I'm ready to face you now. I made myself small. I hid in a corner. I played the good girl. Not this time, no longer. I made myself small. I hid in a corner. I played the good girl. Not this time, no longer. I'm ready to take the heat. I'm ready to take a stand. I'm not gonna stand for this, being pushed around again. I hate to see you kiss your car, and then you go and hate your girl. So hit me with all you've got, 'cause I'm ready to face you now. I made myself small. I hid in a corner. I played the good girl. Not this time, no longer. I made myself small. I hid in a corner. I played the good girl. Not this time, no longer. I'm ready to take the heat. I'm ready to take a stand. I'm not gonna stand for this, being pushed around again. I hate to see you kiss your car, and then you go and hate your girl. So hit me with all you've got, 'cause I'm ready to face you now. I'm ready to face you. I'm ready to. I'm ready to. I'm ready.
And there you go. That was Cameron Fry Takes a Stand, Juice Star Aiden Verity, all the way over there in New Zealand. Great song. Hopefully she's coming up with more new songs. I know she's doing a bunch of concerts over there in New Zealand. Hopefully we get to see more of her in, I guess, the mainstream music. Second song was Kumachung from Japan, a song that was made for the opening of their new church, Open My Eyes. And last but not least, the feature artist today was Dia Wings from Korea, and that was The Way to Go. All right, guys, so let's get into some news updates from around the world. Let's take a look at coronavirus updates in the globe. It is 127.6 million cases, 2.7 million deaths at 2.19% mortality rate. Top 6 countries going by daily infection rates. It is the US at 30.9 million cases, 562,000 deaths at 1.82%. Brazil, 12.4 million cases, 310,000 deaths at 2.49%. India, 12 million cases, 161,000 deaths at 1.34%. France, 4.5 million cases, 94,000 deaths at 2.08%. Turkey, 3.2 million cases, 31,000 deaths at 0.97%. And Poland, 2.2 million cases, 51,000 deaths at 2.3%. Two countries we're always looking at is Sweden and Belgium, because Sweden never went into a full lockdown, and Belgium used to be the highest mortality rate in the world at over 16%, and they're down to 2.64%. And Sweden, as strikingly amazing as they are, they didn't go into full lockdown. Their economy didn't completely bust either. They're not giving out these stimulus checks or anything else like that, and they're down. They're even lower than the U.S. And other countries. They're at 1.72%. So also, let's take a look at Brazil. Right? No, sorry, not Brazil. Well, Brazil is number one on the list. We're going to take a look at daily infection rates, okay? So daily infection rates, what do we see? Top 6 countries, Brazil still on top, 2 weeks straight, 83,000 cases. The U.S., 20,000 less at 63,000 a day. India, 62,000 cases. France with 42,000. Poland with 31,000. And Turkey with 30,000 cases in a day. And you know, the numbers, it's kind of surprising for me because almost all the numbers are exactly the same, right? This is how much the vaccines are playing a huge role. A lot of the numbers aren't going down, and it almost seems like you're reporting the same thing every day. But it's quite interesting to see the numbers are almost identical to yesterday. Indonesia is still in second because the Philippines still has over 9,000 cases in a day. Indonesia with 4,400 and Malaysia with 1,100, which leads us into the top 3. What do you call it? Top 3. What do we call it? Top 3 news. Sorry, guys. Top 3 news stories of the day. Okay, so these are a couple things that are quite interesting and some really, really big news coming out. Right now, it is breaking news, right? Well, it's going to be a little bit less breaking when you hear this, but that container ship we talked about the other day was called the Ever Given, right? It was stranded in the Suez Canal. And this container ship is reported to be freed, which is quite interesting. So that huge container ship that has been wedged in the Suez Canal since Tuesday has reportedly been refloated. Okay, it doesn't mean it's taken out, but it's refloated. It's finally floated. It's not aground anymore. So a video posted on social media on Monday appeared to show the stern of the Ever Given swung towards the canal bank, opening space in the channel. Now, maritime services company Inchcape also reported the vessel was freed. So refloating the ship was a lengthy effort involving tugboats and dredgers. The canal, which runs through Egypt, is one of the busiest trade routes in the world, with 12% of trade going through that one route there and $10 billion going through there every single day. Which means, remember I told you yesterday, guys, $400 million is lost per hour. And this has been like this since Tuesday. Okay, so the grounding of the Ever Given as part of the Evergreen fleet meant other ships had to reroute around Africa, which is supposed to be another week, right? Another week of travel. And after several days of failing to free the vessel on Sunday, canal officials began preparing to remove some of the roughly 20,000 containers on board the ship in order to lighten the load. And experts earlier told the BBC that such an operation would involve bringing in specialist equipment, including a crane that would need to stretch more than 60 feet, and it would have taken weeks. So this is great news when it comes to the economy, that this Suez Canal is finally going to reopen very, very soon. So that's great news. Second thing on news today is about the coronavirus in Mexico. Okay, so Mexico revises their coronavirus death toll, and the revised number is up by 60%. Okay, so Mexico has published revised figures indicating that the number of deaths caused by the coronavirus is 60% higher than previously reported. So more than 321,000 people are now believed to have died from the coronavirus in the country. The revised toll places Mexico with the second highest number of coronavirus-related deaths in the world after the U.S., right? So they have now jumped Brazil. Right, so the president, Obrador, has faced widespread criticism over his handling of the crisis, and the opposition has accused him of downplaying the severity of the pandemic and blamed him for delays in the vaccination program. And the revised report issued by Mexico's health ministry showed that by the end of the 6th week of 2021, there had been 294,000 deaths, over 294,000 deaths, right? And that's up from originally it was 182,000, and it's now at 294. And that was 6 weeks into this year. Since mid-February, more than 26,000 coronavirus-related deaths have been reported across Mexico, which would take the total to more than 321,000. So that places Mexico above Brazil, which has registered 310,000 deaths, and below the U.S., which has recorded 549,000 fatalities. Despite the population of Mexico is only 126 million, which is far smaller than either country, right? So experts have long warned that Mexico's true death toll is probably much higher due to a lack of testing, and it is also believed that a shortage of intensive care beds in many states has led to a large number of people dying at home. So the new figures came after a review of excess deaths and a review of death certificates. And last week, the head of Mexico's response to the pandemic warned that the country risked a new wave of infections as millions prepared for the Easter holidays. And of course, President Obrador, who has himself recovered from the coronavirus, has been repeatedly accused by his opponents of not taking the crisis seriously enough and is often seen in public without wearing a face mask. So meanwhile, Mexico's vaccination program has seen about 6.1 million doses administered so far, and the U.S. recently announced it would release 4 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine to Mexico and Canada, and both countries have approved the AstraZeneca inoculation, but the U.S. has not. However, the U.S. has a stockpile of the jab, so the White House said that 2.5 million of the U.S.'s 7 million jabs would go to Mexico and 1.5 to Canada. So leaders from both countries had asked the White House for assistance, and Mexican officials even pressed the Biden team on the issue during a conversation about border security earlier this month. So that is quite crazy, guys. Mexico is now second in the world of deaths with 321,000, and their population is way lower than both Brazil and America. All right, so last but not least, we're going to go over to Africa and Mozambique. Dozens are dead after militant assault on a city called Palma. Now, dozens of people are dead following an attack on the town of Palma in northern Mozambique, according to a spokesperson from the country's defense department. 7 were killed trying to escape a siege on a hotel. Hundreds of others, both locals and foreigners, were reportedly rescued. The area has been under attack by Islamist militants since Wednesday, and witnesses have described hiding out while waiting to be rescued by boat on a beach strewn with headless bodies. So marine traffic websites showed a string of vessels around Palma and the port of Pemba to the south as people tried to escape by any means, whether it's cargo vessels, passenger ships, tugs, and recreational boats. So what do we know about the rescue? One contractor told the BBC many who escaped the hotel via convoy hid at the beach overnight on Friday and were evacuated by boat on Saturday morning. And he said more people were delivered to safety after him, and the boats would be returning on Sunday to rescue more still. And also, many civilians living and working in the area appeared to be coordinating the rescue effort. Now, local suppliers and companies were the heroes of the entire operation, and in the wee hours, they managed to coordinate and reach out to the evacuees on the beach and got them to boats and got them to safety, right? So, a lot of the people were asking where the support from big companies have been from the country. So South African, there was South Africans and other people that were trying to escape. They were killed. And this is what they were telling. This is what people were telling the BBC. And it's pretty crazy, guys, what's going on over there right now with the Islamist militants. They're attacking cities and dozens are dying. So one source close to the rescue operation told the news agency that a boat with about 1,400 people on board arrived in the port town of Pemba, which is about 250 kilometers south of Palma, on Sunday afternoon. And aid agencies said several more small boats packed with displaced people were en route to Pemba and likely to arrive overnight on Monday morning. So what's the situation now in Palma, where it was attacked? The exact number of casualties in Palma, the town has about 75,000 people, right? But really unclear how many have died, and so many people that are unaccounted for, so we're still waiting for the final numbers. But the town and beaches were strewn with bodies without heads, right? So many of the bodies didn't even have heads on them, right? So the armed group is reported to have taken control of Palma, but those claims are hard to verify amid a communications blackout. So when the militant attack was launched on Wednesday, the offensive targeted shops, banks, and the military barracks, they were all targeted, and hundreds of people fled the fighting, running into forests, mangroves, or nearby villages. And Palma is near a major gas project run by the French energy giant Total. More than 100 workers and civilians took refuge in the town's Amurala Palma hotel. Now, some tried to escape the hotel in a convoy of vehicles on Friday. They were aiming for a nearby beach, and at least 20 people were reportedly flown to safety in helicopters, but others were ambushed outside the hotel. And there are unconfirmed reports of British citizens being caught up in the hotel siege. And one company told the BBC that it has yet to locate a British national who was at the Amarula hotel during the attack. The company says it last heard from their employee on Friday, right? So the UK Parliamentary Under Secretary of State tweeted that the government was contacting Britons in the area to provide support. It's this northern part of Mozambique, guys, has been torn apart by an insurgency since 2017. And militants were linked to the Islamic State. The ISIS group are behind the conflict in the predominantly Muslim region of Cabo Delgado, and the fighting has left more than 2,500 people dead and 700,000 people displaced. So that is the top 3 news for today. It is a little bit bleak, but that is what's going on. So hope that is something that we can keep in our prayers. As we heard yesterday, on Sunday, Sunseam did talk about there's not enough people that pray for their country, so we need to pray for these countries too. Okay? So that is the current news for today, which means we'll go into a little bit more of a spiritual time, guys. We're going to have time of praise and worship as one body of the Morning Star Drive. What do we got to do? Give praise and glory and worship to the Holy Trinity. So we're going to start off with Now We Are Going Ahead, and then Into the Ideal World, that second version. And then, of course, this song we got to hear this week is Lord, I Call Upon Your Name. And yes, in the name of the Lord, we have to pray, pray, and pray every day. All right, guys? So let's give glory and worship to the Holy Trinity.
Finally, pushing ahead, our new songs move ahead of the world. Those worldly songs are now fading behind us. They're behind, falling even more towards death. God gave the melodies, the Spirit gave the words and lyrics. So I became the singer, and I sing the new songs. The songs of life are the new songs in this new time of life. Heaven's new songs overflow, going ahead of the world. Since you have now become the Trinity's counterparts of love, sing the new songs, sing all the beautiful songs of these times. Sing the new songs, go on and sing along. Everyone sing along for all time, until the world ends. Let's sing these eternal songs, songs of The songs of life are the new songs in this new time of life. Heaven's new songs overflow, going ahead of the world. Since you have now become the Trinity's counterparts of love, sing the new songs, sing all the beautiful songs of these times. Sing the new songs, go on and sing along. Everyone sing along for all time, until the world ends. Let's sing these eternal songs, songs of eternal love, now and always. Let's sing the new songs.
Let's all run, Providence calls, history awaits. Let us rise up and shine heaven's truth. Now let us go to the place where our Lord reigns, there we will live, valuably as gold. We can fulfill the hope of the next 1,000 years. Hey, young people, wake up and realize. Hey, young people, hurry, come on. You are precious, young people of today. You're shining bright, young people of today. Young people come, young people come. It's the world ruled by the Lord, the new history will fulfill God's purpose for mankind. Now the words being proclaimed by our Lord here in this place. History is made here in Providence, the ideal world. Let's all run, Providence calls, history awaits. Let us rise up and shine heaven's truth. Now let us go to the place where our Lord reigns, there we will live, valuably as gold. We can fulfill the hope of the next 1,000 years. Hey, young people, wake up and realize. Hey, young people, hurry, come on. You are precious, young people of today. You're shining bright, young people of today. Young people come, young people come. It's the world ruled by the Lord, the new history will fulfill God's purpose for mankind. Now the words being proclaimed by our Lord here in this place. History is made here in Providence, the ideal world. Now the words being proclaimed by
Lord, I call upon your name. Oh my Lord, oh my love. Lord, where are you? Where are you now? I want to be in your arms and confess to you, oh Lord. At this moment I wish to be reborn. With all my heart I call and call. All of a sudden I can feel the fire of his love come closer to me. As the warmth of his love continuously seeps into my soul, hot tears begin to stream down from my eyes. 'Cause I feel my Lord has come. I feel him next to me. The glowing warmth of his love is healing my spirit. How I want to be the love of my Lord. Honestly, I plead, forgive me. Oh my love, my precious Lord, I call upon your Lord, I call upon your name. Oh my Lord, oh my love. Lord, where are you? Where are you now? I want to be in your arms and confess to you, oh Lord. At this moment I wish to be reborn. With all my heart I call and call. All of a sudden I can feel the fire of his love come closer to me. As the warmth of his love continuously sinks into my soul, hot tears begin to stream down from my eyes. 'Cause I feel my Lord has come. I feel him next to me. The glowing warmth of his love that's healing my spirit. How I want to be the love of my Lord. Honestly, I plead, forgive me. My love, my precious Lord. 'Cause I feel my Lord has come. Please stay right by my side. Reveal your heart to me. Receive this heart of mine. For I have no strength without you, my Lord. All my hope is in you, Lord. Oh my love, my precious Lord, I call upon your name. Oh my Lord, I call upon your name. Oh my Lord, I call upon your
And there you go. That was Lord, I Call Upon Your Name. And I hope that this will be something, especially this week, as a door is open for us to ask for many things. Let us really ask in the name of the Lord for many miracles and many things to happen this week, guys. This is the week to do it, so go ahead and do it as much as you can. Before that was the second version of Ideal World, and then now we are going ahead. So what that means, guys, is we're going to get into the word study for today, and because it's Tuesday, we're going to go into one of the books of the scriptures that we're looking at. So let's take a look at the book of Acts this week because, this is one that we haven't done a lot. We have done it before, but we haven't done a lot of this. So let's take a look at the book of Acts, right, on today's word study. All right, so let's take a look at the authorship. And obviously, most of us know that the book of Acts, or the Acts of the Saints, or the Acts of the Apostles, is the same author of the Gospel of Luke, which is Luke, of course. And both of these books are addressed to the same person. His name is Theophilus. Okay, so both of them are written. Luke is writing to this one person for both of them. And all of us, we know that Luke was a physician. Okay, and when was it composed? They're not really certain exactly when, but they say anywhere from 60 and 100 AD, somewhere in there. Right, so they say that somewhere around that time between 60 and 100, which is a pretty, really, it's a very big gap. So they're not really sure. The audience and the purpose of the book of Acts, it's clear, right? It's very clear. He wrote to Theophilus, right? But unfortunately, there's not much known about who this guy is. Theophilus, we have no idea who this is. And some of the possibilities could be he is like a patron of Luke, or the name Theophilus, which means lover of God, is being used universally as a reference to all Christians. There's just not really certain who this person is, but Luke's usage of the term most excellent helps to identify this character. The word is a strongly affirmative honorary form of address to someone, and every occurrence of it in the New Testament refers to governing officials, so they say he might be a government official. Right, so that's a big possibility. And the purpose of this book of Acts is very ecclesiastical or apologetic. And if it's for ecclesiastical purpose, it may have been written in order to edify the church, serving as a history of both Jesus and his apostles, or for apologetics, it may have been composed to make the case that Christianity was not a threat to the Roman Empire. More specifically, it seems that it could have been Paul's defense before Caesar, and this last argument seems to fit the abrupt ending the best, and is also supported through the acceptance or non-conviction of Paul from governing officials. Right, so that's a couple of it that we need to know. I'll give you a couple of interesting facts, especially about Luke too. Luke is very interesting. Luke, we know that Paul wrote the most books, but you have to know that Luke wrote the most in the New Testament. Right, if we went by word count, right, length. So Paul did write way more books, like 12, 13 books, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 books. Right? 13 books were written by Paul, and only 2 were written by Luke. But interestingly enough, Luke has written 6,000 more words than Paul. So if you take it by percentage, by words, Luke has written 27% of the New Testament, and Paul has written 23% of the New Testament. Right? So if you look at it that way, you see that, 50% of the entire New Testament was written by 2 people, but the most was written by Luke. However, like I said before, even though most was written by Luke, the most books was written by Paul. And if you know what Luke is like, a lot of people look at Luke as a very, very good historian. Right? So it almost looks like he's playing the part of a reporter, like eyewitness accounts, and how people saw Jesus. But in the book of Acts, Luke is like that, just kind of the eyewitness accounts. But Acts is when he is an eyewitness to these things. And Luke talks about himself being part of the second missionary journey of Paul. And also, he was present on the trip back from Macedonia to Jerusalem, and he even shows up on the journey from Rome to Caesarea, right? So Luke wasn't just like simply a historian writing about the birth of the church. He was someone who was hands-on, a participant of it, right? And another good thing about the book of Acts is it links the Gospels and the epistles, okay? So the Gospels, or the four Gospels we know, tells the story of Jesus' ministry, his death and resurrection, and the epistles are letters written to various first century churches and individuals. Now, Acts plays a pivotal role as the linchpin between these two elements, right? So in Acts, we discover how God's plan of salvation would play itself out in the world. We witness the impact of Christ's death and resurrection as the gospel unfurls. And as it spreads, churches are planted. The epistles stand as records of the work God was doing in individual congregations. And the book of Acts is covering, it covers the early church for the first 30 to 35 years, right? So if the book of Acts can be read in a little over 2 hours, but it's relatively short, action-packed. So it's easy to miss that it covers more than 30 years of church history, right? Because it's such a short book, but it's covering 30 years, guys, right? And the account begins with the ascension of Christ, which is anywhere from 30 to 33 AD, and runs all the way to like 64 AD. That's where the timeline of these things that are written, and obviously it was written somewhere near the end where the book of Acts is actually being written, right? And of course, Acts reveals the outpouring of the Holy Spirit, which is what happens at Pentecost in the very beginning in chapter 1 and chapter 2. And it's very interesting, this book of Acts. Like I said, it's the thing that links between Jesus' life and the life of the apostles, which is great for us to learn, right? This book is a very important book for us to learn. It's about the birth of the church after Christ dies. Okay, so I hope that we really understand this and know, like when you read the book of Acts, it gives you the two main characters in the book of Acts is Peter and Paul, right? So from the beginning, it talks about, it focuses on Peter, and then later on it focuses on Paul, right? And of course, it tells you the stories of the first Christian martyrs and whatnot too. I believe it was Stephen. Was it Stephen who was the first Christian martyr? Was it? Yeah, it was about Stephen, right? But that he pops up first in the book of Acts as the first martyr, right? And Paul's conversion story is in here. Yeah, it's just really, guys, it's something that we should be reading. And it will give you an idea. If like Pastor Joan said, reading the Gospels, we get an idea to see what Sunsteam's life is going to be like by comparing it to the Gospels and seeing what happened back then in the time of Jesus. But also, you need to look at what our lives are supposed to be like, and you'll see that in the book of Acts. And that is kind of a mirror image and paralleling what we're supposed to be doing too. Okay, so that is going over the book of Acts. I hope you guys really enjoyed that. Yes, we've got to keep going into more and more of understanding the Bible, and I hope that'll be something that all of us will really be able to kind of grab and hold on to and say, oh, wow, we should be learning as much as we can about the Bible. It is so important for us to learn it. Like Pastor Jones said, it's in the principle of repeating history. Our history is in there. We're going to do the exact same thing. Okay, so that means we are ending here on the word study for today, which leads us into the song of choice. What is song choice for today? We're going to go back to Korea, and this is one of the most famous singers. I really love her because she was born in the same year as me and the same year of Providence. She's born in 1978. Guys, she is one of probably the best singers in Korea. Her name is Sohyang, and I would even consider one of the best singers of all time. And man, she's supposed to be so amazing. Well, she's not supposed. She's so good that even international media, they dub her as the Korean Mariah Carey. And basically, her goal, she said, is to comfort people who are going through difficult times through her voice, right? And man, she is amazing. And she has worked with Michael Bolton, David Foster, Brian McKnight, Kirk Franklin. Yeah, she has done so much, and she is very, very emotional in her voice, right? So the song we're going to hear today is a cover that she's done of a very, very famous folk song, right? I'm not sure if many of you guys have heard the folk song in Korea. It's called Arirang, okay? And Arirang is a Korean folk song. It's considered to be like the anthem of Korea, and there are like so many variations of the song, 60 versions of the song, and man, the song is supposed to be roughly about 600 years old, right? So you know how important it is to Koreans. Like even for myself, growing up in Canada, like this is a song I knew. Like my parents, they sang it and everything else too. And great song. But Sohyang does a version of this that is just so compelling, so amazing. It takes you through a roller coaster of emotion. It's called Arirang Alone. Okay, so I hope you guys will enjoy this. This is Sohyang with Arirang Alone.
아리랑
And there they are. Yes, they are cheering. This was a live performance. So that's crazy. That was live, right? Live performance done for one of these the singing shows, and she did this cover of her own rendition of Arirang. It's called Arirang Alone. Amazing song, amazing singer. If you look at the reactions, they have these vocal coaches that react to these singers. Every vocal coach that does a reaction of a Soyoung, they are amazed. Okay, so for me, when I heard this, I was so moved when I heard this song too. But either way, that was Soyoung with Arirang Alone. Hope you guys really, really enjoyed that. Which leads us into the last section for today. And we all know what's the last section. It is Tuesday, which means it is time for Best Class Ever with Sean Jusung McMillan.
Have you ever had to compete against someone who was way out of your league? What strategy would you employ when you were in way over your head? My name is Sean Jusung McMillan, and this is the best class ever. In a past episode, we discussed the prisoner's dilemma scenario and the ultimate strategy that emerged from it called tit for tat. This is a fascinating discovery that came out of game theory, and if you haven't heard it, I highly recommend listening to this episode. It's a strategy that is useful in any competitive situation, has huge implications for any social scenario, as well as political science. You can easily catch up on what you missed by visiting the URL provided in the show notes at bestclassever.org. Today, I would like to explore some of the other strategies that have emerged from game theory and how they have been used by brilliant reality TV show participants to win out over their fierce competition. The first reality TV show we are going to look at is a game called The Golden Balls. In this show, a number of contestants compete in various games and either win various amounts of prize money or they get eliminated. Eventually, the competition gets dwindled down to a duel between two last remaining contestants. All of the prize money is gathered into one large pool, and the last two contestants play a game called the Golden Balls to see if one of them wins all of the money, or whether they split the winnings and both walk away winners, or whether they both lose the game. The game works like this. Each contestant is given two small identical golden balls. Secretly, they look inside the balls to see what is written there. One of their balls says split, and the other says steal. The two contestants must then choose simultaneously whether they want to split or steal. If they both choose split, then they split the winnings in half, both going home as winners. Remember that there is more than enough winnings for them to share. So in the case that they both choose to split and both win, everyone goes home feeling like the world is a wonderful place. But if one of the contestants chooses split and the other contestant chooses steal, then the stealing player wins all of the prize money, leaving the split contestant with nothing but public shame and humiliation. Can you guess what happens if they both choose steal? They both lose. No one gets the prize money, and they only have their greed to blame. Is this starting to sound familiar? This is yet another version of the prisoner's dilemma. But the major difference is that before the contestants make their choice, they are given time to speak to each other about what they should do. You can imagine how this conversation usually goes. Basically, the strategy is to always try to convince the other contestant that you are in fact going to split. Because even if you have no intention of splitting, you only win if you convince them that you will. We know from human psychology that winning half and winning all makes almost no difference to the individual. Both are considered a huge gain, and winning twice as much does not feel twice as good. In fact, it feels worse since winning twice as much in this scenario requires a public display of deceptive behavior. But public humiliation, now that is a powerful social motivation factor. Players often choose to steal just to guard against the horror of an entire audience watching you get taken advantage of. There are a couple famous episodes of the Golden Balls, like the time when an older, shady guy tried to convince a young, innocent-looking blonde girl to split the winnings, only to get conned by the little girl who then took home everything. But the most famous episode of the Golden Balls is the episode where one of the contestants managed to game the game of the Golden Balls. Now, if you're not familiar with this terminology, gaming a game is when you find an ultimate strategy that is impossible to defeat. You might have seen this in Tic-Tac-Toe or Connect 4. If you're the first turn player, there is a way to win Tic-Tac-Toe that ultimately cannot be defeated. So how would you game the game of the golden balls? Well, it went like this. There was a gullible-looking white guy and a slightly manipulative-looking Middle Eastern guy. Immediately, this Middle Eastern guy began explaining that his father raised him, telling him that your word is your life. He is an honest guy, and he is going to split, so the white guy should also split. It should also be noted that this Middle Eastern guy started swiveling in his chair and pulling on his earlobe. Clear tells that he was lying. But the gullible-looking white guy had an interesting response. He said, I also am an honest guy, and I'm telling you, I am absolutely going to steal. I will take all or none of the winnings. But if you choose split, and trust me, I promise I will give you half the winnings after the show is over. The Middle Eastern guy, and everyone in the audience for that matter, was totally taken aback. No one had ever seen or thought of this strategy before. The audience was shocked. I cannot imagine what the showrunners behind the scene were doing. And the host, sitting at their table, immediately began to explain that the show cannot guarantee that such commitments will be upheld, that the only way to officially split is if they both choose the split ball. The Middle Eastern guy was also not having it. They argued back and forth for a long time. You can't really see it in the show because it's edited, but they argued for so long that eventually the crowd, which initially was impressed with this strategy, began to turn on the white guy and began booing him down. But this guy just stuck to his guns, saying he was absolutely going to steal. The host finally got exasperated and said, "We cannot do this all night. These people need to go home and have breakfast. This show is over. Please, just choose already." They chose their balls, and can you guess what happened? They each revealed their choice, and each of them smiled as they had each chosen the same response. Split. The Middle Eastern guy let out a huge congratulations, but also exclaimed, "Oh my God, what is this? You made me work so hard for this." After the show ended, they interviewed the Middle Eastern guy to see what his initial strategy was. He told them he never had any intention of ever choosing to split. So they asked him about his father, because remember, he was saying in the beginning that his father told him that a man without his word is nothing. But he said, "I never knew my father. He left when I was a child." You can actually see this on YouTube. Unfortunately, the resolution and the sound is not that good, but if you want to see it, you can take a look. The next game we're going to look at is Survivor. There's a really great interview with Yul Kwon, the first Asian American winner of the show Survivor. He was interviewed by Freakonomics host Steve Levitt on his podcast, People I Mostly Admire. In it, he explained how he used his knowledge of game theory to work out a deal with one of his betrayers to help them both make it to the final round. Now, early on in the game, the two factions formed. Jonathan and Yul were in the same faction, but Jonathan defected to the other side, bringing with it an advantage in numbers. Yul played exactly and predictably according to tit for tat, always keeping his promises and punishing anyone who defected or acted deceitfully by voting for their elimination. Yul's faction was at a disadvantage, so he needed to turn one of their opponents. Initially, he tried to explain his game theory strategy to a player named Candace, showing her that by targeting her with votes, they could guarantee her elimination. But by collaborating with them, he could guarantee her survival even if his team was at a disadvantage. The rationality of the math did not have the desired effect, and she did not come to trust Yul's faction. So Yul's faction voted her off for both this and as punishment for previous devious behaviors. Using her defeat as an example, Yul then approached Jonathan, who had put their faction at a disadvantage through Jonathan's betrayal. He explained the rationality of his game theory strategy to Jonathan, just like he did to Candace. Yul told Jonathan that Jonathan had one of two options. If Jonathan stays with the bigger faction, then Yul's faction would target and punish Jonathan for his non-compliance, just as they had done to Candace. But if Jonathan returned to their initial faction, and brought with it the advantage of numbers, then they could guarantee his survival, and he had a good chance of making it to the last round. This had the desired effect, and Jonathan defected back to he and Yule's initial faction, giving it the advantage it needed to protect and survive the next rounds of the game. Yule was not guaranteed to win by this strategy, but it certainly helped. The shortcoming of game theory is that you cannot always rely on human beings to act rationally. Humans will often act out of fear or spite, despite the harm it poses to their own self-interests. To see this even more clearly, we can look at another theoretical game called the ultimatum game. In this experiment, 2 participants are placed in 2 separate rooms, but allowed to communicate with each other. One is designated as the proposer and given $100 to split any way they choose between their self and the remaining participant. The second remaining participant, the responder, may accept the offer or reject it. But if the responder rejects, then both of the participants end up with nothing. So the proposer needs to offer up a fair enough deal that the responder will accept it. Now, traditional economic thought assumes that the responder will always act rationally and accept even the smallest offer of $1, because anything is better than nothing. But due to the participants' feeling of fairness, the responder does often reject extremely unbalanced splits. More often than not, the proposer will offer something close to a 50-50 split. But if they get greedy and offer a much smaller amount to the responder would often reject, causing both to go home with nothing. So why is this? Why would any human being act so irrationally? So 2 theories have been proposed. The first, altruist punishment theory, proposes that punishing participants for uncivil behavior will prevent future behavior perceived as unfair. But self-control theory argues that the responder is simply frustrated with the inequality of the offer and will cut off their own nose to spite the other's face. There is one more strategy that has emerged from game theory which I find really useful. What do you do if you are totally outmatched by the competition? Perhaps your opponent is far more experienced, more talented, or simply knows more strategies than you do. In this scenario, your best bet is to act totally randomly, especially if you act unpredictably in a way that guards against a worst-case scenario in which your opponent would be guaranteed to defeat you. We can see something similar to this when Garry Kasparov first lost a chess game to the AI, artificial intelligence named Deep Blue. Garry assumed that the artificial intelligence would always act rationally. It is a programmed computer that always follows logic, after all. So he was totally baffled when Deep Blue made what looked like an intentionally bad move. Garry could not think of any reason or logic to explain why Deep Blue would do such a weak move. And thinking endlessly about this totally wrecked not only this game, but also the following games in the tournament. This caused Garry to lose his advantage. As the weaker player, we are only likely to come up with extremely predictable strategies. So we are just as likely to win by playing without deliberate strategy, or totally randomly. And since we're at a disadvantage anyways, we can afford to take the risk. And playing randomly has the advantage of deliberately confusing the stronger player, thus foiling the advantage of their experience. It is rare that one can guarantee a win, but some degree of rationality can help us to face uncertainty. May the odds be ever in your favor. To see charts, videos, and links to the various different references in this episode, feel free to visit me at www.bestclassever.org.
And once again, Sean, thank you so much for another awesome segment of the Best Class Ever Game Theory. I love game theory, guys, and hope you guys learned a lot from that. Sean, amazing. You're gone over 30 episodes, which means, just give it 20 more weeks and you'll be for an entire year. Can you imagine that? One episode entire? That takes a lot of energy and time. Either way, super grateful and thankful for all the hard work that you've done for Best Class Ever. Go ahead, leave him a comment, and he'll be able to respond to you guys too. All right, guys, that means it is the end of today's Tuesday podcast. Hope you guys had an amazing time. Have an amazing Tuesday, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in